Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. With Hurricane Helene's death toll nearing 160, searchers have widened their search area using helicopters to get past washed-out bridges and hiking through wilderness to reach isolated homes, particularly in the western North Carolina area. President Joe Biden visited the Carolinas yesterday, landing at GSP in an afternoon and touring the area via helicopter with other elected officials. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing renewed criticism after an unearthed 2016 interview revealed she sidestepped answering a direct question on whether athletes should stand for the national anthem. Looks like we're going to have that debate once again. And as promised during this week's debate, Senator JD Vance provided the sources for his immigration-related housing costs that the CBS moderator challenged him on. You're going to be interested to hear this. Finally, swing state voters say they received mail-in ballots for relatives who died and in some cases had moved away.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Quick update on Hurricane Helene as we are coming up on a week soon when this horrific storm hit the Carolinas as it worked its way from Florida up through Georgia. Governor Henry McMaster yesterday said that Tropical Storm Helene had brought the most deaths from a tropical storm in South Carolina and will cost billions of dollars in damage repair. Helene's damage has caused 39 people's deaths in South Carolina alone, making it one of the deadliest storms to hit the Palmetto State. Governor McMaster and several other officials met with President Joe Biden, who was in the area to assess damage yesterday. McMaster said the president promised whatever we needed, he would provide. Additionally, McMaster said that he's concerned about the International Longshoremen's Association strike, which began Tuesday and will impact 36 ports across the country, including the port of Charleston. Biden could seek a court order to pause the strike for 80 days, thanks to the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947. Governor McMaster said he had asked President Joe Biden to consider enjoining the strike. He said 1 in 10 South Carolinians will be impacted by the port's closures and that the state can't handle 2 disasters at one time. McMaster went on to say the longer it lasts, the worse it'll get. And he's right. I don't know that because of the disaster, and we kind of have been focused on that, I'm not sure we have really realized the harm that this strike can potentially cause. We'll dig in a little deeper into that issue, maybe get someone on the show to better explain. But basically, the gist of it is this. Presently, the dock workers are paid anywhere from $81,000 to $200,000 a year. Okay? Pretty good living. Most of them are at that base of $81,000. They want a new 6-year contract with a pay increase of 77%. Now, who gets a 77% pay increase at one time? So that's what they're asking for, and that's why they're on strike, because they haven't been able to work that out. Again, that's a topic we'll talk more about at a later time. Back to Joe Biden visiting the Carolinas and flying in his helicopter to look at the air. I've never understood these presidential visits like this. I guess it's one thing when you're a president running for re-election and you want to look like a leader. In Joe Biden's case, him coming down here yesterday was a waste of time, a waste of resources. I've already kind of beat that drum, though, haven't I? Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Representative William Timmons, and Greenville Mayor Knox White were on hand at GSP to welcome Joe Biden. Graham and Timmons also attended the meeting with Biden, Graham continued to stress that he hoped Biden would intervene with the strike also, just like Governor McMaster. Graham said, "I'm all for people being treated fairly, but I've urged President Biden not to let this go on much longer. 200 million of economic activity per day at that port, 7,000 drugs in or out, picking up and delivering goods, and it's completely shut down. This hurricane was Mother Nature. The port problem is man-made." Graham's right. Graham said he had spoke with doctors who are concerned that medical equipment will be negatively impacted by the strike, and also said people may not be able to receive necessary medication. So they're both right to add the effects of this strike on top of an already shortage of certain things because of the storm. Let's hope they can get this resolved quickly. Governor McMaster thanked Joe Biden for his disaster declaration, we're told. It allows 13 South Carolina counties to apply for assistance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to offset the storm's financial damage. He said that he had spoken to the president about adding 7 additional counties to the list when it is appropriate. The governor also said he had asked Biden to consider including the losses that farmers have endured for financial assistance, including pecan, livestock, and poultry farmers. Congressman Timmons is encouraging people to prepare for power outages to last longer than expected. Now, you know, Duke Energy has said all week that they expect to have most people's electricity back on by Friday evening. There are reports that there's still close to half of the upstate that does not have electricity. So that's going to be a pretty big task to turn that around in what? Not even just over 24 hours, I guess. So I think that's why Congressman Timmons is saying, hey, look, this may take a while longer. Timmons described how he had followed a team of linemen and had seen firsthand the amount of effort and time it takes to raise a utility pole. And, you know, the co-op association has already made it clear that it does take 3 to 4 hours per pole. Duke Energy at one point was estimating they had 6,000 poles down, and that's just Duke Energy. You got all the other co-ops out there, too. I get it. It's going to take some time. And if you're without electricity still, I know you don't want to hear that you may be without it even past Friday, especially after we've been told that most people should have service again by Friday. We'll see. Sad news as we continue to get updates on the death toll. The overall death toll from Helene is reaching close to 160 now. Searchers have widened their area using helicopters to get past washed-out bridges, hiking through the wilderness to reach some of the isolated homes, particularly in the mountains of western North Carolina. They have called in cadaver dogs to search some of the knee-deep, mucky, debris-filled areas in the mountains again in North Carolina, looking for victims of this horrible storm. So, again, this is coming just days after the storm carved a deadly and destructive path through the southeast. Secretary of State Mark Hammond also encouraged residents to be cautious when making financial donations. Now, you know, that's another part of this whole thing that it really shows you how people rally together to help one another. And it's a good thing. But there's also some unscrupulous people out there who want to take advantage of the situation and who will try to take your money in the name of a natural disaster. So the Secretary of State, who, of course, is the regulator over nonprofits and charities like this, is encouraging you to use an app called Give Smart SC, which allows you to look further into an organization before you donate. He said in his statement, you can go into the app, see if they're registered, see how much they raise, see how much goes to their program, see how much they spend on fundraising. All that information is right there at your fingertips, Mr. Hammond said. And again, not to discourage you from helping others, and it's really just a great thing to see how generous South Carolinians can be even those who are hurting themselves, but always recognize that they can help others still. But still, you just have to be careful. A lot of great organizations out there doing things for others. A lot of great nonprofits providing food, shelter, hot showers. Just go to 989word.com, 989word.com, and we have a full web page of resources for you. Just about anything you can think of that you need to know about as far as requesting assistance, what organizations are doing what. We have links to give you updates on renewal of electricity and the services, all right there at 989word.com. Don't hesitate to do that. You can text me as well. You can email me, joe@joeyhudson.com, and I'll be sure you get that information. And be sure and share this information with your friends. Share it on social media. And let them know about your favorite talk radio station, News Talk 98.9 WRD. Tell 4 friends about this great station, as we want to let people, particularly in the western North Carolina areas and those counties that haven't heard about our radio station. Tell 4 friends that you listen to News Talk 98.9 WORD. Joey Hudson here. I was talking to a good friend the other day, and he mentioned that he has started taking the weight loss injection drug that was initially made to treat type 2 diabetes. He said he's losing weight, but the day after he takes the injection, he is so sick he can't leave the house. That got me thinking. Most of us go on a weight loss journey so that we can feel better and get healthy. Folks, losing weight should not make you sick. I can tell you firsthand, 4 years ago when I started PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, I was never hungry or agitated. I never felt sick. In fact, I felt great the very first week. The PhD side effects are better sleep, more energy, smaller clothes, and a general sense of well-being. Getting healthy should not make you sick, and it shouldn't make you dependent on a drug either. Simply put, PhD is freedom. You will not be dependent on a drug because there are no drugs. You'll learn to eat for your body, and you won't gain the weight back. They have a lifetime maintenance program, and PhD teaches you to trust yourself and your knowledge. Call them today, 864-252-4925. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's 864-252-4925. Senator JD Vance made good on his promise. Let's see how much the media, CBS in particular, covers it. Senator Vance followed through on his promise to cite the source of a claim that he had made about immigration driving up U.S. housing costs. This during CBS News vice presidential debate on Tuesday night. Now, you may recall this has changed in the showdown with his fellow vice presidential hopeful, Minnesota Governor Tim Vance blamed border policies of Vice President Kamala Harris, her border policies, for allowing 25 million illegal aliens into the U.S. during her tenure in the Biden-Harris administration, saying that the surge of illegals has contributed to higher housing costs. Makes sense to me. He said, quote, competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal aliens, alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. A moderator then asked Senator Vance to cite the source of his claim, saying, quote, Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify there are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part of the problem? Well, Vance said there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share with you after the debate. He said we'll put it up on social media. So that's exactly what he has done. Following the debate, Vance posted on X, quote, as promised earlier tonight, here's Michelle Bowman of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Quote, given the current low inventory of affordable housing, the inflow of new immigrants to some geographic areas could result in upward pressure on rents. So there it is, plain and clear from the Federal Reserve Board, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Federal Reserve Board. Bowman's quote was from a speech that she gave back on May the 3rd. Vance also pointing to studies that support his claim as well. The first was from the Journal of Housing Economics from 2017, which found that immigration inflows into a particular metropolitan area is associated with increases in rents and with house prices that in that area are seeming to drive up rents and prices in neighboring MSAs. The second study Vance cited was a July report from the Congressional Budget Office, which said that the research literature was generally found that increases in immigration raise state and local government spending, particularly on education, healthcare, and housing, more than their revenues. So basically, it confirms that they take more than they give. It's always interesting to me when you have a situation like that during a debate. Now, he clearly knew what he was talking about. He just didn't have the source right there with him during the debate, which is fair. You can't have all of these details in your mind. But he knew that there was that he had a source that would support his claim. Now, do you think CBS will provide coverage on this? Do you think CBS will talk about this? Do you think CBS will give him credit for providing the source to support his claim during the debate? Have we seen Tim Walz give any support for any of his claims during the debate? I think it's just a good example of showing that Senator JD Vance, whom, by the way, I think did an excellent job, and it's been interesting to see some of the polling in these last couple of days since the debate on Tuesday night. It's interesting to see some of the analysis. For example, Politico, who is not necessarily a conservative publication, that they like to pretend that they're down the middle, that they're balanced. They're not. They probably lean more to the left. But even Politico, they had, and I think it was 6 or maybe 8 of their contributors, writers, who were asked, well, what's your assessment? And even Politico, all 6 or 8, how many there were, all of them, 100% said they thought J.D. Vance had won the debate, that he just made his points and that he backed up his claims. And this additional information is further evidence of that. It's always interesting, too, though, to have some of the analysis. Body language expert Carol Lieberman, she's a doctor, she spoke with Fox News Digital about the body language and how, in her opinion, there was a sharp contrast between J.D. Vance, who she said espoused a sense of calmness and command of the issues, whereas she said Tim Walz appeared nervous and overly fidgety at times, although he did manage to find his stride later in the debate, she said. And we all agreed on that. We talked about that in yesterday's show. He did. He got off to a slow start. He did better. Did better than I expected him to do. But still, I think it was pretty clear that J.D. Vance won the debate. I don't know what that does for him. I don't know that moves the needle either way. Do you? Love for you to text me your comments on that. Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a voice message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. I always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com and take advantage of the great savings that Mike Lindell offers all of you talk radio listeners. But I'd love to hear from you. What your overall analysis is of the results of the debate this week, and do you think it makes a difference? Does a vice presidential debate change how someone might particularly vote in a presidential race? But back to this body language expert. She said J.D. Vance came across as being very steady, like you can kind of see him as a captain of the ship, and he wasn't too stiff, but you knew what you were going to get. Each time he seemed sure of himself, and so you felt like you would be safe with him. He gave an air of stability. You agree? Did J.D. Vance have that steadiness, that confidence that makes you feel safe if, in fact, he were not only to become vice president, but as you know, our thoughts are, what if he becomes president, right? She says Tim Walz, on the other hand, was very nervous, had body language signs of lying. His body language was discordant with what he was saying. It was like too much. It made you feel exhausted and scared. You agree? Love to hear from you. Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing renewed criticism after a 2016 interview has resurfaced. It revealed how she sidestepped answering a very direct question on whether athletes should stand for the national anthem. Now, you may recall in 2016, this was a big news story. You had Colin Kaepernick and other athletes who were refusing to stand for our national anthem, and in some cases, as Kaepernick did, literally taking a knee to express their dissatisfaction with this great country we live in, I guess. I mean, I've never quite understood that, how you could have a football player like Colin Kaepernick, who was making millions of dollars to play a game, and he doesn't appreciate the country that he lives in to allow him to play that game. Of course, he's paid the ultimate price for that because he hasn't worked since then. And I'll be very disappointed in the NFL if he ever works again. So you had that going on, and, you know, that was what a lot of people were talking about. And the country was very divided on the issue. A majority of Americans didn't quite understand how these athletes would be objecting to our national anthem. But there were some on the left who had brainwashed these athletes into believing that they were being discriminated against and that we shouldn't be proud of our country because of some of the dark times in our nation's history, which there have been dark times. No one's denying that. There are things that as Americans we're not necessarily proud of. But still, overall, we live in the greatest country on earth still. I don't think any other country can challenge us on that. So you have these $1 million sports figures taking a knee. So it was a very simple interview. 2016, we were in the middle of this campaign. Harris was serving as California's Attorney General at the time. She had not graced the U.S. Senate yet. And there was a question from PBS reporter David Nazar on whether athletes should stand during the national anthem. Now, this is a simple question, should be a simple question for any elected official, for any American for that matter. Harris avoided a direct response, focusing instead on Americans' constitutional rights. Here's her response.
Should folks stand for the national anthem?
I think that one of the beautiful things about our country is that we were founded on certain principles that we articulated in 1776. We are all and should be treated as equals. We articulated those principles in our Constitution. And part of what we decided is what makes a fair and just and noble society and a democracy, a true democracy, is freedom of religion, freedom, right, of association, freedom to organize, First Amendment. So that is part of who we are as a country, and I will defend it to the core, which is that we give people certain choices in this country.
So what's the answer? I'm assuming she thinks it's okay to disrespect our flag, to disrespect our country. She emphasized, you will notice, the importance of constitutional freedoms. And yes, we all have constitutional freedoms. She made it clear that she believes that includes the right of free speech and peaceful protest. She stated, "We give people certain choices in this country." Well, we also give people choices as to who they vote for. And I hope as this interview is recirculated on social media and other platforms, I hope people are reminded that, yes, we do give people, American people, choices. And one of those choices is who we vote for on November the 5th. And this alone, there are a lot of reasons why you should not vote for Kamala Harris. This alone, though, should show you that she is not a patriotic American. She is not proud of our country. Kind of like Michelle Obama went that time early on in their national political career, when she said something like, for the first time I was proud to be an American, as if she had never been proud to be an American before then. Harris, again, gave an evasive answer. Critics accused her of delivering a rambling and unclear response. Clay Travis, founder of Outkick, labeled it as a long jumble of nothingness. Well, that's Kamala Harris. She's all about nothingness. You listen to any of her responses, it's a lot of nothingness. She's not going to just come right out and answer that question. She tries to straddle the fence on everything so that she can try to please everybody. Well, sometimes when you're trying to please everybody, you don't please anybody. She has previously defended athletes for taking the knee, arguing in 2017 that these actions are protected by the First Amendment. She stated that Americans demanding justice or taking a knee to call attention to social issues should not be threatened or bullied. People who are proud to stand and sing our national anthem should not be bullied either. And we saw some of that back then. Speaking of the November 5th general election, obviously one of the issues that always is at top of mind is voter or election integrity. And like 2020, this is going to be a big issue, November 5th, because so many states around the country have made what I think are probably some very good and necessary changes in their voting law. South Carolina is one of them. Georgia. North Carolina has tweaked theirs. And I'm perfectly fine with what the results are as long as we have confidence that it's a fair election and that it represents what the American people want. So when you hear stories about this 81-year-old Illinois man who was kind of shocked to receive a mail-in ballot for his wife, you think, well, that's no big deal. Well, it is when your wife is dead, when she died in October of 2022. The Daily Wire first published this story. They identified him as George. He lives in Kane County, about 50 miles west of Chicago, according to the Daily Wire. The ballot that he found in his mailbox this past Saturday, he also received a ballot addressed to his late wife ahead of the Illinois primary back in March as well, he said. This was kind of confusing, he said, because he had shown his wife's death certificate to Kane County election officials, who also told the Daily Wire that George's wife was no longer on the voter rolls. The saga has George concerned, as he should be, about the integrity of the presidential election. And he's not alone. Voters in several swing states have reached out to the Daily Wire, according to them, to share stories just like George's and to raise concerns about what's going on with mail-in ballots. As we start having more states who will begin early voting and more states mailing out those ballots, this is something we have to watch. And as I've said before, I have pretty good confidence in Laura Trump, who is said to be heading up the election integrity arm of the GOP. She has a team of lawyers ready for November the 5th and the days and weeks following to make sure that every vote is counted properly. Back to Illinois. George has lived in Illinois for over 6 decades, he said. His ballot issues began in 2022 in the midterms. When he got his polling place on Election Day, he was told that he couldn't vote in person because he had a pending mail-in ballot. In the end, George said he had to go home, pick up his mail-in ballot, which he hadn't used, and take it in to get it voided. He also brought the ballot that had been sent to his late wife then, which he said really upset the election officials. He said he was eventually able to vote, but only after about 45 minutes of discussions with election officials showing his wife's death certificate to have her ballot voided. Now, I don't know what his wife's ballot had to do with him voting. Illinois law allows voters to request permanent mail-in vote status for both primary and general elections, according to the Daily Wire, but George says he never signed up to get a mail-in ballot and always votes in person, which I agree with. Again, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know I think you should vote in person. And so many states now, kudos to those who don't allow mail-in ballots unless you're in the military and you're out of the country, or you can't physically make it to a poll and you gotta show something to prove that. Otherwise, you have to participate in early voting. We're going to see that unrolling a lot here in October, as a lot of states, like South Carolina, has early voting starting 2 weeks out. Now, again, personally, I'm going to show up on November the 5th. I don't want to vote early. But a lot of people believe, and many of you have texted me, many of you have emailed me and said, Joey, as soon as you can vote, vote. Some of you have texted me and said you've already voted because your state allows it. And the whole idea is to bank your vote. Bank your vote. I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I'd love to get your feedback. Text me or email me as to why you think it's important to bank the vote. You can email me at joey@joeyhudson.com. I'd really love to hear from some of you on this topic. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. On our text line today, Sherry writes, "Good morning, Joey. I thought I would send you a quick text. I feel JD Vance won the debate this week. I was wondering if anyone else noticed that Walsh looked like Don Rickles." You know what, Sherry? I hadn't, but you're right, he does. She said, right, laugh out loud. And finally, when are the American people going to wake up and realize that every time the Democrats are in office, the economy is bad? We lose respect from other countries, and they never support Israel. Obama was like Biden. We voted Trump in there once before, and I'm praying everyone votes and that the fake media is astounded by the number of people who vote for Trump and he wins. Enjoy your day. Love your podcast. Sherry from Georgia. Thank you, Sherry, and I hope you are safe and good down there and survived Hurricane Helene. Faye writes, "Good morning, Joey. How on earth can Biden allow the longshoremen to strike with all but bankrupt our citizens?" Okay, sorry about that, Faye. I kind of butchered your text. Prices are out the roof already, and this adds salt to the wound. These strikers are getting paid a darn good salary. Well, you're right there. As I mentioned earlier in the show, $81,000 to $200,000, and they want a 77% increase. Faye says, in effect, they are blackmailing the country. Their leader says he will cripple the entire economy. Some adult better buck him today. You know, he's made that statement. They've made it very clear that they're going to use their power of striking at any cost. They don't care that the rest of the country is hurting. They don't care that we already are suffering from what inflation has done to our economy over these past few years. They're going to add to that. And they call themselves Americans. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. Unions have outlived their usefulness. Everybody deserves to be paid fairly. I get that. But to potentially cripple the country, wanting a 77% pay increase, that's just wrong. I do hope Joe Biden is not tone deaf and will listen to what people like Governor McMaster yesterday in South Carolina encouraged him to avoid a second catastrophe. We've been hit hard in the Carolinas and Georgia with Hurricane Helene. Another disaster would occur if, in fact, this strike is allowed to go on further. Texter says, Margaret Brennan claimed that last week's heavy rains and flooding are because of climate change. How would she explain the Great Flood of 1927 that affected Mississippi and 3 other southern states? Back then, there were far fewer cars, and there were no plastic straws or bags. You're so right on that. Texter Joey, please tell your listeners, if they see power workers close to their home or while they're out, say thank you and buy their lunch if you can. Very grateful for what they're doing. Yeah, this texter's right. If you're out and about, if you happen to be in a restaurant, and as quite often you'll see just a large group of utility workers, let them know that you appreciate them and buy that cup of coffee, buy their lunch, because they're away from their families. Some of these men and women have traveled from states all around the country to be here to help us. So let's let them know that we do, in fact, appreciate them. Texter, hey, Joey, it's been kind of a rough road for us. We're cooking on a Coleman stove, and we lost all of our food. If it wasn't for dehydrated food and canned goods, we wouldn't have anything. But through it all, we've had our water and a roof over our head and got to go to church Sunday. So I'm good. I'm good. I'll be praying. Okay, I'll be praying. Okay, thank you. We're all praying for one another, praying for this recovery. Texter, I noticed they've cut the trees that were falling back, but I see some that are on the verge of falling, which is very concerning for the next storm. And by the way, that storm is brewing in the Gulf Coast now. We'll certainly be watching it, but this could be a very busy hurricane season, folks. So just get braced for it. Texter says, I'm not sure why they are not cutting these trees down as well, because I'm sure they're not going to cut them down until they fall into the road or on someone's vehicles. Very concerning. Well, right now, they just don't have the manpower to do the cleanup. They're cutting the trees and removing them just to get them out of the way for now, get them away from so they can get the utility poles replaced, so they can get the power lines replaced. They'll come back. This cleanup is going to take quite a while. So, but I get what you're saying. If a tree is heavily damaged, and if one of these hurricanes that's already being seen in the Gulf comes through again, it's just going to be easier for them to fall over and cause damage. I get that. Texter Joe from Lawrence says, Governor Walz sounded like a race car with the clutch in going nowhere. JD sounded like a race car catching gears and setting lap records. Yep, you're right. I think we all agree JD Vance cleaned Tim Walz's clock the other night. Texter Taylor, South Carolina seemed to have not been touched. Going on 6 days, though, without Duke Energy. Well, there are some areas like that you'd never know a storm has come through. Some areas you don't see all the trees down. But because they happen to be in the middle of an area where maybe a substation is close by, they've lost power as well, and other utilities. Texter, also, JD took Walsh to school last night. JD dominated the debate and looked like a smart, good guy who wants to make America better. I think we all agree that JD Vance did very well in this week's debate. Whether it'll change anyone's mind, I honestly don't know. I don't think it hurt anything. I do think that Governor Walsh just once again kind of reinforced his goofiness. That man, he is a goofy guy. And now, because of the texter a little while ago, reminding me that he looks like Don Rickles, you're right, he does. Every time I look at him now, I'm going to be thinking about Don Rickles. Back on the storm here, one of you sent me a link that's kind of troubling. It's about a Eastern Tennessee company. Workers there are saying is a plastics factory. Workers are saying that floodwaters rose on Friday, but managers would not let them leave until it was too late. Out of 11 impact plastics workers swept away by flooding in Irwin, near the North Carolina-Tennessee border, 2 are confirmed dead, 4 are missing, according to CBS News. Robbie Jarvis told NBC News that around 30 workers were at the plant in an industrial park next to the Nalachunky River. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Friday morning, he says they had been told to be there despite weather warnings about Hurricane Helene. Jarvis says his requests to leave were denied, and he was told to move his car twice as water entered the parking lot and continued to rise. Surviving workers at this plant, again, some missing, some known dead. Look, if you're the manager who ordered them to stay, you've got that on your conscience.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.